As I said, it needs rules. And the rules have to be based on pragmatic experience. And artists, which was denied from the specialists at the beginning when they said, there is no competition possibility, you cannot compare arts. I said, the real artists, and I learned from the sponsorship and the helping hand to artists, is they are used to competition. They know there are less stages, less galleries available where they can show their skills. And in each of us is a sort of artistic skill, and it depends if it gets developed or not. If, for example, we are not guided in this direction, the talents fade away because we are born with all talents in the world, and then our societies try to discipline us. And so I thought, if I create a different thinking as we have it in the Western societies. Here, we look for where is the chance to make more money out of the competition, where I can be better, where I can make more money. Let's focus on that. What unites us the most? And all the artists, what unites us the most? And all of a sudden, we got criteria from the teachers when they evaluated in textile, in design, whatever they did. It needs a certain kind of talent, and we just ask them, how do you evaluate and how it should be done? And all of a sudden, the rules came by the professionals. And what I didn't knew here and there, I learned from them. And out of these rules, I said, now we have to come to categorize. And finally, I came to 6 art categories, as we have, for example, also a limited number of core disciplines in sports. And then the dividing lines between the disciplines. And so I came up with 6 art categories. And I divided the 6 art categories in arts of modern times and traditional arts. Arts of modern times are design, no, not design, it's social arts and communication. How to communicate? What kind of social science do we share? As one category. The second, and this is 30 years ago, ecological arts, where the expert said, yeah, it's okay, fine. Continue sleeping. And architecture. They could live with architecture, but they could not live with ecological science. And I said, the playground for children is the birthplace of creativity, of innovation. To care for the soil is an issue if nothing grows. What do we do? And for example, as timeless value, the Delphic Games, I choose water. As for the Olympic Games, it's fire, the flame. And I said, water goes everywhere, and its essence is life. And then for traditional arts, music arts, and sounds as one category. The second, performing arts, dance, theater, circus. The third, language arts and rhetoric. What is the art in languages and moderation, translation? How I can adjust myself to feelings of others if I don't have a good translator. And then visible arts and handicrafts. Visible arts is the power, the strength we have. For example, you can find visible arts everywhere in each of us. You can find them as a painter, as a singer, as a bakery, as a lawyer, because we all work a certain level and reach a certain skill. But to see beyond, their art began and the artist began. And so the creativity is there in each of us if we listen within us. And I must admit, this must be the sixth. Visible arts, and yes, these are the 6 art categories. And I must admit, out of the handicraft training at the college, I knew what I was talking about. To set a floor for learning from each other. And time has come. If you recognize, we founded at the 100th anniversary of the IOC of modern times. And sometimes you recognize time has come for something to happen. And the body was praised enough. Mind had not its floor, similar to sports. And the ancient Greeks, they said the symbiosis of body and mind makes the human being. If one is missing, we miss something for the rest of our life. And this was the main reason, because when I recognized what I learned from the various professions, when I recognized first art college, second wanted to become an artist, then Air Force, military, then logistic, then finance. For more than 20 years, I ran a finance and advising office. And then always helping artists, learning their concerns. This, I believe, qualified me to an extent and made me for a permanent learning person. And so I believe time has come, and let's fight. And when we had meetings, high-ranking politicians said, Mr. Kirsch, you will have enemies, threats, and hard times, because people will not believe, or they are jealous, or they are greedy, seeing the opportunities. But this is worthwhile to be done. And whenever you need help, call me. And this person said to me when I called him, "Sorry, I cannot assist you. I have a son living here in Russia." And this was even a sign for me to continue, to learn from others what never was taught about. Because we Westerners, we are raised in a Western thinking. And the East is raised in an Eastern thinking. Regardless how good we are and how independent, but if we don't change views and countries and languages, we have no chance to come closer to each other. But this creates the future for our children and grandchildren. And so, I must admit, it was the beginning of a beautiful time, and I found naturally critical people up to meeting enemies even. But I had the privilege to meet friends, true friends, and I'm grateful for them. And when we celebrated our 30th anniversary last December 2024, I published a book, a little booklet, and I distributed this booklet, and the enemies said, "It's all lie." And the other said, "Oh, you remember me." Or the widow said, "You remember my husband helping you at the beginning." And this is privilege and honor to me. First challenges was, at first, out of the founding group, we had 1994 representatives from 20 countries here in Schloss Schönhausen, Castle Schönhausen here in Berlin. And among them, I found people being connected to political leaders. And this is also a privilege. A lot of hidden talents are alive, waiting for a call from beyond to do something no one did before. And so, for example, the mayor, Anatoly Sobchak, from St. Petersburg, took the patronate and helped friends from Russia. And I met Mikhail Gorbachev. I met all sorts of people, and they helped and sensed something new has begun. And there I also met the first host. The first host was Georgia, Tiblisi. Also hidden at that time, at 1997, when we had the first games, by an occupation of Russia, Abkhazia. And they said, this is something for our identity. We have to show a bit more as language, we have to show and invite the world to protect us as we protect them with our art. And to create a sense of common thinking that it's not the muscle, but spirit uniting us. And with this, I found the right hosts, and we started with Youth Delphic Games in Tiblisi, 1997, and were copied by the IOC with the first Youth Games some years later by the Olympic Committee. Then they started after we did it. And I naturally traveled through UNESCO, through all sorts. I had to learn my Greek lessons. I could manage to meet Queen Sophia of Spain. And she said, go to my brother, the King of Greece. He is living in London. And I did so. And I met King Constantine. I met Queen Sophia. I met God and the world. And each of them contributed to that, what I had the privilege to gather in a ball. Because it's not me, it's always us. And 938 participants traveling or participating in the first Delphic Games of modern times for adults in Moscow. And I recognize that the hosts, beside my little insisting on, I want to have them sitting here among us, and if the press is coming, then here. And if I am invited to transport from A to Z, I want to go with the bus and not with the limousine, just between my people. This is for me important. And so the motto each host can choose was in this case a new millennium. And it underlined, so to speak, we open a new page, and we started, or we've finished the previous year with the young ones. And this is important to acknowledge. And finally, the Russian hosts took us aside and said, if the next games are already given and considered, and I said, no. How you see the seat of the games? Are you satisfied in Berlin? I said, well, I wish my beloved Berlin would be more open and more curious to know what we are doing. But unfortunately, they are not that wide awake as, for example, your people in St. Petersburg or you here in Moscow. And he said, do you remember in St. Petersburg, you received a draft of a center, of a Delphic center in Pushkin. This could be possible to be dedicated to the Delphic movement. I must admit, I was a bit speechless, thanked for this, and recognized, oh, it came from above. Because the interesting thing for me was I was the first foreigner having the possibility to give a speech for the City Duma in Moscow, introducing the Delphic Games, and the Smolny also in St. Petersburg. And so I was awarded by the city of Moscow for my cultural contribution with a diploma, and by the city of St. Petersburg for my cultural contributions. And I must admit, having met Mr. Gorbachev, being warmly embraced, I sensed that Europe wouldn't be Europe in its cultural essence without Russia, without the contribution of the East. Europe is more than West Europe. Altogether, we are 51 countries nowadays, but we are raised in a divided continent, and music and arts and culture can bring us together within our community, as countries, as regions, as proud cities, to show that's us. And I must admit, it's an honor and privilege, regardless what comes today and what we face today, we can change the tragedies into pleasure if we want it, and if we use arts and culture strategically, not just as singing, dancing, having fun, but changing the world to a better tomorrow.